Hey guys, it's Pete from Pete from Anxiety here. Welcome in today's episode. I appreciate y'all being here so much. Let's talk about a few things real quick. The Pete vs. Anxiety Team Anxiety Facebook group. Are you a part of it? You're not? What are you waiting for? The link's down here in the description down below, or go to Facebook and search Pete vs. Anxiety. Then look for the Team Anxiety team page and join it today. Why not? You can join and help. It'll be great. Yeah, like right now. Hurry up. Stop what you're doing. Pause this video. Go do it right now. But anyways, let's also talk about the Pete vs. Anxiety YouTube page. If you're here right now, you're probably following it most likely. If not, head on over there, subscribe, be sure to like and comment on the videos and let me know, because all that stuff really helps, guys. I really appreciate it. And help me break the stigma that mental health is talked about enough. But anyways, guys, let's get in today's episode. I'll have a great one. Thank you so much again. And as I always say, don't ask how your day is. Ask how your mental health is today. Guys, welcome to an exciting episode of Pete vs. Anxiety. My guest today is a passionate advocate, speaker, coach dedicated to empowering women to heal, grow, and reclaim their lives. As a founder of the Inspired Action Wellness, she has spent 15 years helping survivors of domestic violence transform their trauma into strength and confidence. Please welcome the author of the upcoming book, From Surviving to Thriving, A Journey Beyond, the one, the only, Danielle Young. How you doing, Danielle?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Well, why don't you tell everybody a little more about yourself? I know I could give a great intro, but it's better when it comes from you directly.
Yeah, so you pretty much hit the major points. I am a master certified life coach. I am a certified trauma-informed yoga teacher. I'm an author, speaker, all of that stuff. And I help women who have been through abuse and trauma overcome that and get back on their feet and live the lives that they deserve.
All right, so let's talk about the book. All right, it's the story of yourself, correct? Everything you went through and everything. Do you want to give everybody a little preview about your story, about yourself? Give them a little more info.
Yeah, so the book is, it's basically a roadmap. If you have ever experienced abuse or you are currently going through it, it is a roadmap to either getting out or starting over. And it's got my story kind of intertwined in there about how I overcame and how I started my healing journey and how I got to where I am today. So I was 18 and I was just getting ready to graduate from high school, and I met my abuser at my job. He was 10 years older than me, so I was very enamored that someone older was interested. And we started dating, and very shortly after we started dating, he started getting very dominating and jealous, and that's when the abuse started. Lasted for a couple of years. I ended up getting pregnant. We had a daughter, and 3 weeks after she was born was the night he tried to kill me. So I left and started my healing.
He tried to. How did he try to, though? That's yeah. I'm not really shocked when I hear that a lot of times when it comes to domestic violence, because a lot of times that's what it leads to. A lot of people, unfortunately, you know what I mean? It's just how it happens, unfortunately, and I hate to hear that kind of thing, especially when kids are involved too, because that always makes everything even harder, because, with kids, they see a lot of things that are going on around them, and as I've learned early as 4 years old, a lot of them already know what's going on at that time. They can tell, but they can't tell you certain things, obviously, but they can see everything going on. So they can see what mom's going through with dad doing all these things, Yeah. And it's hard. It's hard for them, And how old's the little one now?
She's 25. Well, she'll be 25 in a couple of weeks.
Okay, so yeah, all right. Well, does she remember any of these stuff when it happened? And
no. So she was 3 weeks old.
Okay.
When that happened, and the courts, when I went for custody and child support, they basically said, he has rights and he has a right to see her. So we tried to do that whole thing, and I just said no. He stalked me for 2 years after I left and harassed me, and I said, I'm not putting my life and her life on the line again. Like, I've already done that. We're not doing that again.
Yeah.
So I defied the courts, and she was probably a year and a half, somewhere around in there, the last time she saw him. So she has seen pictures of him. And I just recently, before I started the book, told her about what had happened.
Oh, okay. Okay. So you
Yeah,
did tell her what happened. That was going to be my next question for you.
I
'Cause,
did.
well, I think it's powerful for her to know what happened. And, and I think that, the kids younger need to start having these kind of conversations and things to look out for. Me and a guy I interviewed yesterday named Terry, he has two daughters of his own, and he talks openly about his mental health with them. He has PTSD and things like that. He's been in the fire force for 18 years, and he has an open dialogue with them. So I 100% love it when people talk about these kind of things with their younger kids and kids of her age as well, because they need to know what to look out for these kind of things, because she's a young lady, man. And a lot of times, yeah, a lot of these young ladies deal with these things and they don't want to talk about that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah, I've always taught her without actually telling her.
Yeah.
This is what you need to look out for. And with my son, he just turned 14. So I've been very open and honest with him. This is what you need to watch out for if you see this happening with someone, and don't ever treat anybody like this. They're both very conscious about how to treat others, just because I went through what I went through, and I've been able to convey that without actually telling them all of the details about what happened. And my daughter, she knew that I had gone through something horrible, but I never told her details. She never wanted to know.
Yeah.
So when I said, the book's going to come out, I'm going to be doing some speaking engagements, you're going to find out.
Yeah.
She said, okay. So we sat down in my bedroom floor one night, and we had a good cry session over a box of Kleenex, and I told her everything that happened, and she was like, okay. And the book is actually dedicated to her.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, we grew up together. I was 20 when I had her. So,
yeah,
it was like, I knew that I didn't want to be stuck in that mindset of being a victim. And because I needed to raise her, and I wanted her to be a strong woman like I was, and that I wanted to become. So I basically just grew up with her. And
yeah, no, I agree. I had a daughter at 19, so me and her mom didn't have the greatest relationship, so I haven't seen her since she was 5. So it's hard, but at the same time, she knows I'm alive. So it's gonna be one of those things I'm gonna have to reach out and talk to her about, and I think it's awesome that you're having this conversation with her, though. You're telling her about these things, because it's hard to talk about those things. You don't find a lot of people that want to come out and talk about their domestic violence and what's happened in that situation, much less write a book, because now everybody's going to see it, including him. And he's going to, of course, be out there denying it, like, oh, I never did any of these things. She's making up stories, and because I dealt with a narcissistic ex for 15 years, man, and there's just things that I haven't told many people that I'm getting ready probably to write my own book about, and I was thinking about doing my own book and just telling the deep stories about it. At the same time, it's going to upset a lot of people because, it's just what happened. But, at the same time, you can't worry about what other people think, because this is how it happened. As much as they want to deny it, this is how you saw it from your eyes, and for you to share that with her and to dedicate it to her, that's amazing. That's really awesome. I love it. I even love it even more than I already do. Like I said, I saw the topic of the book, and I was just like, I'm so enthralled to read people's books, because you want to see the eyewitness accounts of things that go on. Because a lot of times, a lot of people line up with that. You're going to find a lot of people are going to be like, hey, listen, Danielle, I've been through the same thing you have. Thank you for sharing your story. Now I want to share mine. Because a lot of people don't are always just sitting there watching it. It's kind of like men mentality. Because there's a guest I had on camera what we were talking about. We were talking about fantasy football league. And the guys in his fantasy football league all were looking in, ready to say something about how their emotional, how their feelings were. And one person said it, and all of them just started coming into it. So it's a lot of times, it's the tipping point for people to get into the conversation, is once they see somebody else say something, they're like, hey, man, if he can do it, why can't I do it?
Right. And that's exactly why I'm doing this, because there is so much shame and so much stigma around domestic abuse that, and that's where it thrives. It thrives in silence, and it thrives in the shame. It depends on someone not saying anything. And that's why I'm out here. I want people to know that it is okay. There are resources, there are things that, and it's not just you. this happens to others and you're not alone.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
so important for, because I was in that position and I felt so alone.
Yeah.
I felt like nobody was there to help me. I basically did this on my own. So I wanted to become who I didn't have back then. And
Yeah. And then you have your daughter, you have to, you want to make sure she doesn't go through the same thing you do. And, that's very inspiring because you're telling your story about these things and being very vulnerable to tell people about these things, And I don't think she realizes what's going to come with this. A lot of people may start asking her questions about it too, but I think she should take a note that, you were powerful enough to overcome this thing, because according to the statistics I'm looking at right here, it says 35.6% women and 28.5% of men have experienced one of these following things: rape, physical violence, stalking by the intimate partner. And it's interesting because people think, it's only one side. It's both sides of that conversation as well. And that's not what you're saying. You're just saying, this is my story. Hey, don't judge it for what it is. This is my story. If you don't like it, don't read it. I mean, it is what it is. It's a hard pill to swallow for people.
Right. Yeah. 1 in 3 women have experienced domestic violence, and 1 in 7 men have experienced domestic violence.
Yep, you're right. Yeah. And it's weird though, too, because a lot of people don't think of the men's side of it too, with how many men have dealt with it though as well. And I'll be interested to see somebody that's a man's side of it come out of it too, because you can see what their perspective is. Because it's always great to get both sides of the coins of the conversation of how things go, And obviously, he's going to get mad because he's going to see this and he's going to be put on blast. Do you mention him by name in the book, or do you just kind of give him a character name?
I don't. When I refer to him so in the book, he's my abuser.
Okay.
And when I do podcasts, I refer to him as stupid.
Okay. Well, listen, that works for me too. I'm down for whatever you want to call.
Yeah. No, I don't dignify him with his name.
Yeah, no, I agree. It gives them power. I agree. I love it too. I love it when you don't mention it, because I've had somebody on before. She told a story about her narcissistic husband, and she has a whole book about it. And it was interesting to read too, because I'm finishing it now. I've been getting through it little by little, but it's so interesting to see how much me and her align. Because when we were interviewing, a lot of the stuff we dealt with was the same exact thing. And the crazy part is she was actually like 30 minutes away from where I was at when this whole thing happened. So we were still in the same area. So it was the craziest thing about it though, but it's just scary, the statistics I'm looking at, because I'm on this side looking, okay, and it says every year 1 in 3 women who are a victim of homicide murder by current or former partners. Mm-hmm. That's just still too big of a number. It's insane. It says that more than 3 women are killed by husband or boyfriend every day in the U.S.
Yes.
That's insane.
Yes, it is. And our judicial system fails victims of domestic violence. We're not taken seriously, men or women. We are just not taken seriously. And it's a staggering number, and that needs to change. There definitely needs to be some judicial reform. And that is actually one of my goals, is to work on something. Because, we have the Domestic Violence Act, but it's not enough. I mean, just speaking from my own personal perspective, I went to court and they made us take parenting classes together. And I'm like, are you kidding me? This man tried to kill me. He came after me with a knife. And you want me to sit next to him in a parenting class? What are you on?
Yeah, that doesn't sound too right. I don't understand why they're making you take classes next to this person, especially everything you guys have gone through.
Right. It's crazy. And the amount of, and I'm just going to speak for women because I am one.
No, you go right ahead.
The amount of women that are not heard when they go to someone and they say, hey, my husband is, they can get it on camera, they can record the abuse, and they're still made to feel like, oh, this is nothing, just put up with it, just leave, and it's not that simple. I'm so tired of this just leave mentality.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's the same thing when it comes to depression and all these other things. Just cheer up, or hey, just stop overthinking things. Well, I'm sorry, my anxiety doesn't allow me not to overthink things, and my depression doesn't allow me not to feel this way. So there's a lot of things that correspond with that too. Now, and I'm sure there's a lot of mental trauma you had dealt with after that, and things like that too. Have you been doing therapy since then?
I did. So I started off with regular talk therapy, and that it didn't do it for me. It didn't work.
Yeah.
So I turned to yoga, that was great. That reconnected me with my body. You know, that was a way to kind of reset my nervous system. Then I started with self-inquiry, which I also now teach. And then I did EMDR, which was great. That worked amazingly well. I was skeptical, but it did actually work. And then I do meditations, you know, I do all of that stuff.
Yeah, you know, I love the alternative healing areas. I've been getting really big into them ever since I met an energy alchemist, and you know, it's kind of one of the things I've been tapping into a lot. You know, and I'm very big empath. So you know, I love it when I hear everything but talk therapy. Don't get me wrong, talk therapy is great, but I feel like it's not the end all be all for everybody. There's so many different things out there, so many other things like you said, yoga worked well for you and things like that. You know, and it's so great to hear that you know everybody's not feeling like, okay, well, I tried therapy, now I just gave up. You know, I mean, it's like you found
Right.
something else that worked, that fits into the dynamic that works well for you, which is great because the whole point of the show is to introduce other people and other things like that, bring the conversation mental health in, bring people like yourself in doing these great books, talking about these areas that not a lot of people talk about, you know, at all, especially, you know, domestic violence and things like that, you know, and now you're turning it into your own superpower, basically, essentially helping other people get through this. It's fantastic to hear.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, the reason talk therapy is great as a supplement.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm going to say this, it's super controversial, but abuse does not settle. I mean, it's not part of the language centers of the brain.
Yeah.
So talk therapy is not going to release that muscle memory. It's not, I mean, it all settles in the nervous system. So we have to start with nervous system regulation first.
Yeah.
And
No, I
talk
agree.
therapy is great for things that come up, you know, while you're doing the physical healing, but it's not going to be the one solution for someone who has PTSD, who has been through trauma, who has been through abuse, who, you know, who has nervous system dysregulation. It's just not.
Yeah. No, I get that completely. And that's the great thing too, is that, you know, all these other available things are out there now that you don't have to feel like you're stuck dealing with these things every day, you know, and it's the great thing about it. I get to meet all these new people and learn new things. And it's so cool to hear their stories about the things they're doing, you know, because my own story, you know, like a lot of people have only heard a little bits of it, but, you know, that's the reason I started this podcast. I had my own mental health problems at first. And I was wondering where other people are talking about it. I always want to do a podcast. I did one before. I was messing around with some friends. And, you know, I was like, all right, I got to switch topics, do something real serious here, something I really feel good about. And then I landed this topic, and then God knew had I known that this thing was going to take off like it did, but it just shot off like a rocket, you know. And as we were talking about, I'm just swamped with people that want to be on the show. So getting to hear these great stories, it's awesome because they're all new things I can touch back. I'm like, hey, have you checked out Danielle's book? You know, and like I'll refer the book to other people that are going through these kind of things. Like, hey, you got to read this book. I just had this great guest, and there's other people I talk to in podcasting circles too. I have a bunch of other friends and things like that too, that we all talk about things like that. And, you know, I always suggest other people on other shows a lot of times too. So don't be surprised you hear my name come up a lot of times, other people, because I love talking to other people. I love telling other people about other people's stories because this is great because, you know, you're 15 years, you're helping survivors, you're getting through these things. You even found it your own inspired action wellness. So why don't you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So Inspired Action, actually, I rebranded back in August. I was doing some other types of coaching before that, and it didn't feel right. And I was meditating one day, and I heard "Take Inspired Action" because I kept thinking I wanted to change things up. I knew
Yeah.
that I didn't want to keep doing what I was doing, and I had a friend say, you know, you should really tell your story. And I really did shy away from that because I thought, no, nobody wants to talk about trauma. Nobody wants to talk about abuse. Lo and behold, people do want to talk about abuse and trauma. So I was meditating and Inspired Action came up and I just said, oh, okay, the light bulb went on. I said, okay, Inspired Action Wellness. There you go. There it is. And it really is. I mean, you have to take inspired action every single day towards what you want your life to look like and how
Yeah.
you want to feel and how you want to be and how you want to look. And it's so fitting for what I've been through, because everything that I've been through has just been inspired by something else, whether it's something that I've read or something that I've done or someone I've talked to. It's been this chain of inspired actions.
That's
So
awesome, though. I mean, that's exactly how the show name came up for me, though. It's like I was just thinking about it one day, and all of a sudden it hit me. I said, "What about Pete versus anxiety? Because anxiety is what I deal with a lot, and my anxiety is my worst enemy. So why not battle my own anxiety? Getting on this show every day, I hit record. It's an anxiety. I get real bad anxiety right beforehand because you don't know how these conversations are going. Now these conversations have gone great. I've had like one or two that kind of were a little dry, but I mean, it was just the early stages of this whole thing. And I wanted to do something else other than what I was doing. I felt like the old show I used to do just wasn't going the right direction. I had a controversial co-host that just kind of had really odd opinions I didn't agree with, so better than, sit there and continue to battle it every day. I just decided, you know what, I'm going to take a break, rethink things, kind of like you were meditating. I was thinking about it and I was like, I just really wanted to do something. I came with the name of the show. I posted it out there and I got a massive response right off the bat. I think within the first 2 weeks, I was already to the end of the year, just on a daily show and a weekly show on Mondays that I had done because I joined a podcasting network and things like that, and you'll find that a lot of people want to talk about a lot of these things. They just want to feel like they're not alone. Right. And I think when people like yourself come on here and share your stories and other people hear it, it inspires other people to want to tell their stories as well, because they're like, man, like I said, they're going to say, well, if Danielle can do it, why can't I do it? You know what I mean? And that'll be what it is. And if you touch one person's heart, you've already touched enough people right there,
Right. Yeah.
And that's all you have to aim for. It's just the one person and then go from there, because with this book, you're going to touch millions of people.
I hope. Fingers crossed that I do.
I know you will.
That's why I wrote it. Because some people they're not ready for that public facing admission yet.
Yeah.
So my hope is that they read the book and they're like, you know what, this inspires me. Again, inspired action. It inspires me to just do something small. And that's what I emphasize to my clients. That's what I emphasize in the book. Just start small. Your nervous system is already so overwhelmed from everything that you've been through and everything that you're carrying and just from surviving, that if it's just one small action can just change the trajectory of everything.
Yep.
So start small.
It's very true. Just start small, because the small changes lead to bigger changes.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel so massive when you change directions of the way things are going, and it's great. And it's very inspiring to hear that, because it's not just me saying it, it's other people saying it now.
Yeah. I think people think that change has to come in like epic waves. It needs to be like something huge and it needs to be something massive. And no, my grandma used to say, small puddles make big streams. And that's true. It's true. And the small actions will lead to the bigger actions. And even if it's just, I always emphasize to my clients, the first thing, just sit down, put your hand on your heart and just breathe. Just breathe. Focus on the breath, focus on your heart beating, focus on, just the small things that are right there. Don't focus on what's outside of you. Focus on what's in here. And then start focusing little by little. Like during the pandemic, I started making my bed every day, but that small action, and I still make it every single day, but that small action was like, okay, I can make my bed every day. It gave me this confidence, like, okay, I can do this. Now, what else can I do? And it's just sort of led to all of these other little things that got me through this horrible time in the world.
Yeah.
And so that's how I really like to approach things with everyone, with my clients especially, is like just tiny little small things, build up that confidence and then go bigger.
Right. So let me ask you, though, for the book, what was the inspiring moment? That moment you realized, like, hey, I should write a book. Was it just people telling you should tell your story? Or did you just say, like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to just write a book. What the hell? Let's go for it.
It was a combination of both. Honestly, I had a lot of people tell me that I should tell my story.
Yeah.
And that for me was like, how do I do that? I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
And then a friend of mine introduced me to someone who held like a book writing workshop. And so I did that and I thought, you know what, it's time. I just felt like all of these little moments led up to that. And I thought, okay, the universe is telling me I need to do this. So that's
Yeah.
when I just said, okay, I'm doing it.
That
And
universe is a powerful thing, isn't it, Danielle?
yeah, it is. When you open up to it and when you just sort of surrender and say, okay, give me what you got, things come to you that you never expected, but they're good. You know,
Yeah.
if you read the signs, I know this sounds kind of woo woo, but
No, no, doesn't sound anything at all. You're sounding right on the path I'm thinking. So
yeah, things will unfold for you the way that they're supposed to. And I feel like the path that we're on, we just have to read the signs, and that's going to lead us into the next direction. Like I always say, rejection is protection and rejection is redirection. And so many things that I tried to do, I kept feeling like I was trying to, put a square peg into a round hole. It was like, it was just constant fighting. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to surrender. And then all of this started falling into place. So
yeah.
I wrote the book, and yeah, here we
Here we
are.
go. Here we go. Right. Here we go. We're about to go on an
Yeah.
adventure, man, because it's going to be an interesting ride, though, man, to see how people react to it, And
Yeah.
you're going to get so many great emails because I had another guest. She had done a breast cancer memoir about how she had a double mastectomy. And she had come on and said that she got a lot of emails from people. She even got emails from gentlemen, too, guys that had read the book and said, hey, thank you for putting this out there, because now I can understand what other people are dealing with in this situation, or my loved one, or someone has been on the flip side of that thing, what their thought process was going through. And Erica has a real great book. It's called the mastectomy I've always wanted. There you go. And it's about how she has a double mastectomy. Gets real deep into this conversation about it. It's real, and I'm talking like the second half of the book. She shows you the operation aftermath pictures and things like that. Like we're seeing it all. Like you're not getting anything else. You're getting complete Erica 100%. And I thought it was so interesting, though, for her to do that, though, because you're putting that out there, like pictures of herself, full nude, frontal nudity right here, just you seeing it all. It was rough to look at. Some of the stitches, she refers to a lot of saw stitching because it looks so gruesome. But the doctor kept telling her, no, it's okay. It looks good. It looks good. She's like, what looks good about this, man? I look like Frankenstein and patchwork together. And I was like, what? I was like, what? I was like, but she's like, yeah, and she was going through it. And you watch her just regain her confidence as she goes, and she shows you the whole journey all the way up to the end where she gets tattoos and things like this. And, I don't want to give it all away for anybody who hasn't read the book. I'd definitely say go check it out. It's by Erica Newbert. It's a phenomenal book. She was actually guest on the show too. And this was a jumping point for her too, because she was so amazed that I was going to read the book. I'm like, why not? I'm a man. I'll read the book. Why not? Why not read it? I'm always interested in reading something new. Why not check it out? I don't understand why we have to put limitations on what we read. If it's a good read, it's a good read. Let's call it at the end of the day. If you're a good author, you're a good author. It don't matter if it's directed towards females or males. It's your audience. I mean, it's just like, I don't stir away for any of these conversations. I love having different people on this show for these conversations alone, just things about uncomfortable conversations or things just that are just basically mostly female audiences, because I do have female listeners that listen to the show too. So I try not to stir away from anything. I try to get everything I can for everybody on here.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And the conversations need to be had.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I mean, mental health is such a stigma still. It's like, come on, we're in the 21st century and it's still a stigma. Everyone faces something in their life. And why are we not talking about it? Why are we not shedding light on it?
Exactly. We know it's a problem, though, Danielle. The scary fact is that, when it comes to these school shootings, me and my guest, Terry, yesterday were talking about that. He said, did you know they talk about it? They know it's a problem, but they don't do anything about it. I'm like, Terry, you're 100% correct. Like, you're a first responder. They don't even talk about first responders' mental health. The guys that have to go see these things firsthand, and Terry and I were discussing that too. It's just like, they know it's a problem, but they shy away from it because they know it's easier to fix this other problem first. I'm like, why not address the problem you keep claiming is the issue? That mental health is the problem. Okay, so then why not we attack this issue head on and start getting these people some help instead of letting these tragedies happen, these mass ending of lives that just shouldn't be happening. If we could get these individuals some help they really need. They may need to be locked up and keep under that depends on the severity of what it is. That's not everybody. And things like that, and it's crazy because it's like, it's insane because it makes no sense that, we know these are a problem, but we don't do anything about these problems.
Right. Yeah, we definitely have a mental health crisis in this country. And it's not going to get any better if we just keep ignoring it. More
Yeah.
things are going to happen. And I think, we're so consumed and also desensitized because these things just keep happening over and over and over again. And it's like, well, now what? Nobody's going to do anything about it. So,
Yeah.
we watch it unfold, but it's like, you feel powerless because the powers that be are like, well, we don't know what to do either. Let's just shove it under the rug and thoughts and prayers.
I feel like it's the same thing for domestic violence, though, too, kind of a little bit.
Totally.
A lot of people don't like. They're just okay. We'll throw that on the rug. We won't worry about that till later, And I think it needs to be addressed too. Like you said, they're not doing enough about it. They're doing enough about a lot of stuff, and it's like it's time for the call to arms of these people to start doing something with these things. I think that all these things are hand in hand. Domestic violence and mental health fall together a lot of times because I'm sure a lot of stuff comes from that. A lot of trauma comes to a lot of these other things that people deal with, like BPD and all these other really ones like DID and things like that just get really extreme as you go farther down. And it's like, instead of us putting a Band-Aid on it, we need to attack these issues head on. And that's the whole point of the show as well. It's just I'm trying to raise awareness of these things. Having these conversations with different people it's great because you get different point of views and everything. Because everybody's opinion is not wrong. Like however you feel is your opinion. And like no one can get mad at you for having an opinion. This is just the opinion you have. Was it right? Okay, well, somebody may not agree with it, some people not. That's the choice of having a debate and having these conversations, is that everybody gets a voice that can come on here and say what they want. As long as we're not going like extreme, like neo-Nazi type things, I'm pretty much open to any conversation, I mean, I've had a guy on here, we talked for an hour about sex addiction, and a lot of people are just looking at me like, huh? I was like, listen, dude, you'd be amazed at the things you find out in these conversations because, like I found a lot of interesting facts about that and things like that. It's not what it seems to be. In a lot of these conversations, I even had a conversation, hour-long conversation with somebody about neurological things that I kept up with completely. We were going back and forth the whole time. It was a great episode too, so it's great when I get different people in here to talk about these kind of things, and I think that you're going to start opening a light to domestic violence with this book. It's going to start inspiring other people to come out and start talking about and demand more from everybody to start doing things. And that's what we want. We want demand for these problems to be solved. We won't want these issues to keep being swept under the rug per se.
Right. Yeah. And that's the one, it's any sort of abuse or trauma. That's why people don't come forward, because they're like, well, nobody's going to believe me.
Yeah. And then the scary part, that nobody's going to believe you, but you're the one telling the story. And right. An interesting fact I did find out, though, from one woman I talked to about, about child predators. It was the child itself. They said to teach the children at an early age about their anatomy because two reasons. One, because that way they're more informed about it. And two, if something like that were to happen or something in that area would like to happen, they could tell the officers what are going on. And it's hard because, that would fall into the same thing. It's like, you're going to believe a little kid, but you won't believe a domestic violence person. It's like, where are we falling off the wagon here? Don't get me wrong, teaching the kid how to explain what's going on is great. But what about these other people too? Come on now.
Right. Yeah, it's such a double standard, when it comes to things that people don't understand. So it all comes down to frame of reference.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you've never been through it, you don't understand it. So I think people who look back and they see us who have been through abuse, they're like, they have these thoughts and they have these assumptions, and they fall in line with those stigmas. Well, why didn't you just leave? You stayed too long. Why didn't you do something about it? What, blah, 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 down the line. And it's like, well, because people like you exist.
Exactly.
Exactly.
The whole word, remember that word you said, oh, why don't you just leave? It's so easy to tell somebody just to leave.
Right.
But it's so hard for a lot of these people to leave because they don't understand the circumstances, especially when you have kids involved too, like you did. It's even harder because now you got the kid in the middle of this whole thing too. And you got to think of them as well. It's not only just you anymore.
Right.
And the situation just multiplies even further. So it gets even worse. So,
yeah. Well, then people think, oh, it's just hitting. It's just physical. No, there was financial abuse. I was not allowed to have a job. He did not want me working.
Oh, but so we went to the narcissistic phase. I like it. Okay.
He didn't want to hold down a job either. So all of the money that I made when I did work was not mine.
Yeah.
So, there's emotional abuse, there's physical abuse, there's financial abuse. All of these things play into it. And then there's that manipulation that plays into it, where they have you thinking that you can't live without them, that you're no one, that if you leave, bad things are going to happen and you can't make it on your own. Like, you need them. So there's a codependency element to it. There's gaslighting. There's all of these different things that go into it that people don't understand unless you have been a part of it, or unless you've experienced it.
Or you're educated enough to know what those are too, and that's the third option as well. But yeah, gaslighting is a big one too, because like my ex used to make me think I was crazy. Like she would do it so tactically. She'd manipulate the situation, and I was too blinded by rage to see what she was doing. So, because I was abandoned when I was 10, so like I had a lot of rage issues. I still have a lot of rage issues I deal with currently, but it's not as so bad as it used to be. But she used to know how to trigger it. So she'd trigger it and then go, oh, look, he's crazy. Look, see what he's doing. And, she'd manipulate the whole situation to make it look like I'm the one that's the problem when she's the one manipulating this thing the whole time. Instead of me thinking clear enough about it, she's obviously got me in a state of just red. I'm not seeing clearly to see what's going on, as it's a whole setup in her part.
Yeah. And that's where they get you.
Yeah.
That's where people third parties like outside of that can look at that and say, well, it's not entirely her because you did this, and it's not entirely him because you did this. And, and that's why it's so difficult, because there's different dynamics. And, and unless you're in it, you really can't stand back and judge. Yeah. So, we just need to start not judging people who say these are happening to them. Like, these things, this is happening to me. People just need to say, okay, I'm here to listen. I'm not going to judge. Yeah. And we need more of that for sure.
Yeah. I think that the hard part, though, is for people to listen to, because the things they're going to hear, a lot of them are not ready for. And I think that's a problem, too, is that, us not having these conversations out loud enough is like, I don't think people are educated. Like you said, they're scared of things people say. Like, they don't know things. So they tend to shy away from things we don't know. And, oh, that's not them. Oh, and because, they all don't understand the different elements. If they're a covert narcissist, of course, they're not going to present as this evil person you're portraying them, because they don't want that to be the whole idea is they're putting on this mask in front that, you see this. So if Danielle were to say that, I can counteract it because they see me as this person there, and it's all the tactics and things like that. People don't understand. They've never been through it, but it's just, it goes deep, man. And it's just like the mental abuse you deal with, and things like you have to deal with the horrible thoughts that go through your head, and things like that. And when the kids are in it too, then the kids get weaponized. My situation, they got weaponized against me and things like that. So I get constant messages of things of, oh, well, they don't want to see you. They want nothing to do with you, this and that. And it's coming from the one person, but it's not coming from them. So it's like, now I'm learning to just kind of, I look at it and go, I don't think so. I'm not really buying this story too much. It's her trying to dictate the narrative. And if I don't respond the way she wants me to, she gets mad and blames and says, oh, my wife's messaging her. I'm like, no, this is me messaging you. My wife has better things to do than sit here and message you. She's not a kid. She's an adult. She doesn't like to give into these things, but she doesn't like that. She doesn't have the power anymore, because now my wife has taught me how to look at things from the outside, looking in at it, and kind of go, hey, hold on, wait, look at what she's saying to you. Look at what she's saying, and look where she's trying to bait you into a conversation, to get into texting more. And I'm like, I'm not doing all that. I'm good.
Yeah. Narcissists don't like to feel out of control. They don't like to feel like they don't have any power. And that's like their one thing that they hold on to, is that power. And when you take it away, that's when all kinds of things start happening in their mind.
They start control. You can't lose that control, man. They don't like it. They get real upset, and you can see it too. And the patterns of things she does, she gets so mad and just sending flurries of messages telling me that they don't want anything to do with me, and then I'm a horrible parent, and this and that, and it's like, oh, that's great. This is all you're saying, but what are they saying? If they're adult, one of them's old enough now. She's an adult. She can speak for herself. You don't need to talk for her. So it's like she has all the control, and it's more of a waiting game at this point. I just kind of got to sit down and just kind of sit back and just kind of just keep trying, and it's hard. Yeah. Some days it's hard, and other days it's rougher, and it's just what you deal with when you deal with these people as a narcissistic parent. And then especially your spouse being that one, it was even worse, because she got abusive near the end of it too. She'd get mad at me because I wouldn't give her any money or something like this. Or she, when we actually split up, she stole my car, stole money out of my account, and it took the kids and ran. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. Left me with nothing. When I went home, I got a ride home for somebody else from work, because I didn't realize she had taken the car until I left work to leave work for the night. I was done. We closed the store. We left. And all of a sudden my car's not there. It's like, what? And that's when I realized what had happened. I went home and all my stuff was missing and stuff like that's been taken out of the house. And it's like, oh, it was not a fun time, man. It was rough too. And luckily I had a nice enough person that I knew to work with. He was helping me get back and forth to work until I got into one of those weekly living house situations, and even that was rough too, because she'd always keep dropping them off by me. Oh, well, can you watch them? I got to do this. I'm like, I got to work, dude. I don't have time to stop and do anything. I'm working 50 hours a week, and I'm staying in this hotel and walking to work every day. I'm not letting her get me down, because it was the final turning point. Was like, I came home one day and she was texting me something. I don't know. She got me so mad about something because I was at the gym or something. The only place I go was gym, or I go to work because I was so busy working. So she again manipulated the situation to say I'm the bad guy. Went to the neighbor's house and said, "Oh, well, look, he's very angry right now. Look, I can't be there. I'm scared to come home." So I had the cops come to my house and tell me to leave my house I'm paying for. That I needed to leave because I was the aggressor. And at that point, I was just like, I'm done. At that point, I was done. And that was the same day that whole thing went down. She stole the car and everything else, and all these other things to try and break me, but I wouldn't allow it to happen. I just said, okay, whatever, And at that point, I'm just like, the only thing I was worried about was seeing the kids. That's it. I didn't care about anything about her because I was already done with her.
Yeah.
At that point, I was just worried about the kids. I'm like, when am I going to see my kids again? I just want to know, when am I going to see kids? Then I had to figure out where I was going to stay, because she's like, well, I can't stay in the house. Okay, cool. Then I'll go find somewhere else. You stay in the house here. Instead of being civil adults about this, she just took off and ran off and everything and things like that. So I ended up staying in a weekly rental house and things like that, for the time being, for a couple months. And, it really humbled me at that time too, because it's like, I had pretty much nothing at that point. I went to absolutely nothing. I had 3 boxes to my name, and that was it. So now I hold so dearly on the things I have now, because I'm like, I don't want to be put in that situation again, because it's like, I've been there. I know what it's like, and I don't want to go back to that. It was terrible. It was horrible for me to experience, and horrible for them, because those poor kids are being used as weapons, and they don't even realize what's going on, because she's manipulating the whole situation the whole time.
Right. And that's going to scar them for life too.
Yeah, exactly.
And narcissists don't think about that though. They don't. That's the whole point of narcissism, is right. They don't think about anyone else but themselves. And, it doesn't enter their psyche what they're doing to other people, and how their actions are affecting other people. And I mean, that's definitely, narcissists are probably one of the most difficult people to deal with because of that. They, they don't see the consequences of their actions, because to them, they don't have any.
Yeah, no, they want to admit that they're wrong, and they'll deny it all the whole time. Oh, I never did anything wrong. And
right. Yeah, they're always the victim. Everyone else is to blame.
Yeah, my mom was like that too, though. She was like, "Oh, I never did any of those things to you guys." I'm like, "Yeah, okay, we were there for him. I know what happened. Thanks. You could deny it all you want, but I was there when you beat the car out of me a couple times, And she's like, right. I never did those things to your dad. He was always lying. Because I always told my kids, I was like, "Yeah, your grandmother just wail on me when I was in trouble." And she's like, "I never did those things to you." I'm like, "I was there. What do you mean?"
Yeah. Yeah, and that's probably one of the hardest things about healing from it too, is not having that validation from the person who did that. And, for those of us who've been through that kind of situation, we do have to learn how to just validate our own thoughts and feelings, and, our own experiences dealing with that.
Yeah, it's tough. I'll be honest with you. It's really tough. It's still something I struggle with today. It's the aspect of knowing that you're not going to get any answer from them. You're not going to get "Oh, I'm sorry," this and that. They're never going to admit they did anything wrong, because you're going to have to accept that factor too. And it's like, I'm almost 40 now, and I've had 30 years of this. I've dealt with all the things all the aftermath of everything that's happened afterwards, all the rage things that have come out, all the anger I took on other people, all the things I did because of this one thing I didn't realize, was fueling the whole thing behind it all, and instead of getting help for the problem, I always denied I had an issue until I was forced to face the problem, in which, no one wants to face their issues. It's tough, man. Once you got to look at the devil in the face in the mirror and you're looking at it, it's like, you got to battle those demons, and it's hard enough,
Right. For sure. Yeah. And, it's a forest tree situation, right? We don't know what's happening until someone points it out to us.
Exactly.
And then it's like, well, wait a minute. How do you know? So then there's this questioning element where, we do kind of go into denial, and we're like, wait, no, they're dumb. They don't know what they're talking about, But then I think once it sets in and you start seeing, like, once it's brought to your attention, you start seeing the patterns.
Yeah.
Then I think it becomes a little bit easier. Like, we don't want to admit it, but eventually you don't have a choice but to face it.
Yeah.
It's either your life is going to continue down the path that it's on, this path of destruction, or you're eventually going to have to get some help for it.
Yeah.
And that's the choice you have to make.
Yeah, that's very
And
true. And the fact that you said, it's just you denied it. I did at first. I denied it was all going on, but my buddy was insistently telling me, he's like, no, dude, look at all the evidence you have in front of you. Like, wake up, man. Wake up and look at this. He's like, I know you're not stupid. You can tell something's not right because you've said something to me. And I was talking about it, having self-dialogue with him. I was like, yeah, man, these are the things I'm noticing. And it was just these little tiny little bit things that I knew were a little off that didn't seem right. And at first it didn't hit me. And then he kept telling me the same thing. He was like, hey, man, like, these are not right. Like, something's not right about this situation. Wake the hell up and look at this and look exactly what it is. And I denied it the whole time. Like, nah, man, I can't be that. No, man, she would never do that kind of thing. And that's where the issue became. It's like, and when I started really paying attention to things after that, I started noticing these little things. And he was just like, look, man, I'm telling you, look at everything that you're going through. And you should just watch for any other weird little things that you notice out of place. He's like, and if you start seeing things, then you'll see that I'm right, that something isn't right about this situation.
Yeah. Yeah. We have blinders on, because, and the thing is that we're going through so much. And the thing with childhood, when it starts in, like, our perceptions of reality are shaped by the time we're 6.
Yeah.
So, like, for instance, you grew up with that. So that was normal behavior to you.
Yeah.
Nobody, it's not abnormal behavior until someone says it is. And then it just questions and challenges everything about your reality. So it throws you into this tailspin of, well, wait, what's real? What's not real? What do I believe? And it does this mental mind shift where you're like, hold on, everything that I thought I knew, you're telling me I don't?
Yeah, exactly.
And you go through this whole period. It's like a death. You go through this whole period of, I thought I knew me.
Yeah.
I thought I knew what I was doing. I thought I knew what was going on. I thought I could control, all of this, what was happening. And then it's just, everything kind of falls apart.
Yeah. Yeah.
And anybody who faces their mental health will go through this. It's like facing a death of who you thought. It's like an identity theft or identity death. Who you thought you were. It's like, no, I'm not this person now.
Yeah.
Well, then who am I? And it's like, but that's a great thing. You now get to choose who you become. You don't want to be this person. This person was destructive and this person was, battling things that, they didn't want to battle. But now there's a choice, and you have a choice to say, oh, I want to do this differently. And I want to live like this now. This is who I want to become. And it's taking the bull by the horns, and it's just finding the things that can get you over there instead of back where you were.
Yeah. It's like an identity crisis almost too, because now it's like, you're like, who am I anymore?
Right. And it's fighting reality. Your reality was one thing. And then now it's like, wait, I have to face another reality. Like, what are you talking about? Like, what? I don't know. And it's like this, they just butt heads.
Mm-hmm.
And it's trying to figure out what's real and what's not real. And then forging your own way forward through that.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. It's not easy. But it doesn't have to be hard. And that's what I tell my clients. This is not going to be easy, but it doesn't have to be hard. It's just finding the things that work for you.
Yeah, no, I agree. Whatever works for you best, too. And that's the thing people need to remember is that not everything will work for you. So whatever you need to do and whatever works for you is the better options to go with. Like, don't think everything's cookie cutter for you, because it's really not. At the end of the day, it doesn't fit everybody. It's not an end all be all. That's why I say talk therapy is not for everybody.
Right.
But it's for those people that it works for. And all the therapists already know, listen, they know if they're not for your fit, there's no hard feelings at the end of the day. They'll tell you may have to go through 5 or 6 different people to find that person that fits what you need and what you need to address.
Yeah, for sure. Mental health is such a complex issue that, there's so many different modalities out there. And some people find comfort in just going to talk therapy all the time.
Yeah.
And it's great. It's like, if that works for you, more power to you, rock on. But people like me who are like, no, I need some action steps. For me, talk therapy was just that. It was just talking. And I'm like, but nothing's changing. I'm not feeling any different. I'm talking about these things, but talking isn't getting me anywhere.
Exactly.
I need action steps. I need things to do, and that's just how my brain works. But for other people, it might be a combination of the two.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. I agree 100% with you on that one too. Well, guys, we're getting ready to wrap up this episode of Pete vs. Anxiety. Danielle, thank you so much for coming. I'm so excited to read the book. Do you know when the book's supposed to drop again?
It's for pre-sale right now on my website. So I have the deluxe edition right now on my website. It will come autographed by me, and I designed a bookmark that will come with it. And there is a free resources page that also comes with the book that will be on my website.
Awesome. And I'll have everything in the description down below this video right here, guys. All our socials, our website, everything. So you guys can go on and pre-order the book and everything else, and you can reach out to Danielle and tell you if you like the book, tell your thoughts. But I'm sure she wants to hear some feedback to let her know what you think about these things. So I'm very excited. Like I said, I'm very excited to read the book. Danielle said she's going to send me a copy when it comes out so I can read it. I'll definitely have to let y'all know what I think about it. I'm sure it's going to be a great read as always, and once again, thank you so much for coming. I appreciate being here. I'm so excited. Like I said, I'm ready to see what happens in this book. Do definitely keep me updated. I want to know how it goes, and things like that too, because I think you're about to do something very big. You're going to make a big wave, and people are going to start wanting to share their stories. And I'm sure you're going to get flooded with emails of people with different stories they want to tell you about their own journeys and things like that. And maybe you'll just start your own podcast eventually. You never know. That's always the road for a lot of people. You never know.
Yeah, that's a goal. I do want to start my own podcast, and I would love if people would email me their stories. I would love that.
Definitely, guys. You heard it. She's thinking about starting a podcast. So, guys, if you're watching this video and you want to reach out to Danielle, like I said, all her links will be down in the socials and everything will be down below. Reach out to her, let her know. She wants to hear your stories. She wants you to be heard, and as always, as I say, I'm Pete for Anxiety. I'm on X all the way down to TikTok. I'm on Spotify, all the way down to iHeartRadio, guys. And as I always say, it costs nothing. Have something kind to somebody. One kind act you can do can save someone's life, or hell, you can even make their day. I'm Pete for Anxiety, saying, don't ask how your day is today. Say, hey, how's your mental health today?